So, how much does it cost to build a cafe racer? Well, the absolute honest answer is anything you want to pay, pretty much. You've got two ways of building a cafe racer bike. You've got the cheap way, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's pretty much what I've done myself. And there's the ridiculously expensive way. So you can go out and buy all new, really expensive parts for your bike. So lately, as I've been nearing the end of my build, I've had so many questions on YouTube from people asking me how much have I spent on this project. And until this weekend, I had no idea. And as you build something, you spend 50 quid here, 60 quid there, and you know it doesn't really hit you, or you don't really make a mental note of how much. So I've tied everything up together, and it's pretty scary, bearing in mind that this is the cheap way I've done it. Some parts are good. I've done a lot of the work myself, like the spraying the tank. So I think the biggest cost was probably my error in judgment when I bought the bike. I bought a bike which was around 80% complete, and the parts that were missing, mostly the electrics, which cost an absolute fortune, and then mechanical bits like brake calipers, kickstand, and then your levers. All these you're probably going to change anyway, unless you're keeping the bike true to its original form. You probably will change them along the line. So here's my list. So as I'm reading this out, I'm going to put a tally down here, and that'll be in British pounds. I'll also put the conversion rate of the US dollar for whatever it is today next to it, so at least all the international folks like you guys in America can actually see how much it is. So we've got the bike. First of all, it's £400, bought off eBay. I could have probably bought a better bike for a couple of £100 more, and it probably would have brought my costs down drastically. So that's definitely a piece of advice to make note of. The rear seat and the hump both came together, the leather and the actual plastics for it, so that was £120. The rear hoop, the steel hoop, that was £35. The rear shocks, now they were £100, which isn't a bad price for a pair really, and they make the bike. I think if you want to update your bike, give it a bit more of a modern and meaner look, then the rear shocks are definitely something that you need to address, especially seeing as my original ones were the rusty to buggery. The powder coating, 150 quid, absolutely money well spent. If that could be my one advice to anyone doing their own cafe racer build, is to powder coat the frame. It comes back looking brand spanking new. And no matter how good you are with the spray can or anything, it's going to give you that durability and that finish. You know, you're going to be kicking it with your boots, stones, chipping away at it. It's definitely the one thing I would advise anyone to do. So the Speedo, that was £20. The Tacho, bit dearer, that was £40. The steel to make the electrics tray at the back, not too bad, 20 quid for that. The rubber bushes the rubber mounts, I should say, to hold the tank in place, the petrol or gas tank in place. So they were 8 quid. Absolutely broke the bank. The battery, again, this is an absolute must for me. If one tip I could advise anyone to do, and that's to invest in a decent battery. Now I went for a Ballistic Evo 8, which is a lithium ion battery. It's a dry battery, so you can mount it upside down, face up, left, right, any which way but loose, and you're not going to have the problem with your battery, your fuel cell leaking if it's an acid-based battery. And as well, like I've done, you can hide it under the seats if you want, so you don't have to have it upright, right in the middle of the frame where that void should be. You've got the handlebars, the clip-on bars. They were £55, pretty expensive for what they are, but they look nice. The headlight brackets, 15 quid for those. The headlight itself, 30 quid. The indicators, so that was, what have I put here, 30 quid, so that's 15 quid a pair, which really isn't bad. The ignition coils, now they were 30 quid a piece. Your relay, 30 quid, that's for the indicators. Your condenser, that was 40 quid. That was an aftermarket part from eBay. Your ignition points, changed all those for 25 quid. Now the other option is to buy an electric ignition, so that's probably going to be about 120 quid for you. So if you want to save 95 quid, just change the points yourself and just deal with it. Deal with setting your points. It's a bit of a pain in the ass for an extra 95 quid. You could argue it's probably worth it. It's entirely up to you. The gasket set, which is £80. The levers, they were 70 quid, pretty expensive. The throttle, 20 quid. The cable, so this is your clutch, your tacho and your speedo, were 50 quid. Your brake pipes, the braided hydraulic brake pipes, they were 60 quid for a pair. Again, not too bad. The silencers were 70 quid for the 2 silencers, which again I thought was pretty reasonable at 55 quid each. Fuel tap, this is a stupid schoolboy error. I bought the motorbike thinking that, again, you know, the vital bits would be complete. It comes with a tank, you'd automatically assume that there's going to be a fuel tap stuck onto that. Silly me, it doesn't. And a fuel tap for a Suzuki GS 550, looking, you know, at motorbike dealers around here, they were asking 120 quid, but luckily I managed to find a part for a similar bike which needed a bit of cutting, so that came to 45 quid. The oil filter has to be changed, obviously, when you're changing the oil, 10 quid. The brake caliper for the front was 35 quid, the rear brake caliper was 45 quid. The chain, 80 quid. Now I went for a special X-ring chain. I'm going to make a video possibly in the next couple of weeks about the difference between an O-ring and an X-ring chain. Personally, I'd always go for an X-ring. Again, I'll explain why in that video. The front sprocket was £15, the rear light was £20, the exhaust itself, which didn't come with a bike, I had to order that from America. Again, it was the cheapest place, even with the delivery, and that was £120. The rear brake switch was £5. The bolts all over the bike, because I replaced every single bolt with the new Allen hex bolt, and they were 30 quid. The rear brake reservoir, which didn't come with a bike, that was £25. The kickstand, originally the bike was a 4-branch manifold into one exhaust, going out through the left hand side, I think it was. As I was going for the new twin pipes, it needed a centre stand, so again that was £12 off eBay. The air filters, 4 of them at £10 each, that's 40 quid. The rubber bar grips, they were 15 quid. The front rubber gaiters, £12, now they're going in the front forks. The tacho gear, again, this is the little gear system that fits in your front wheel and goes up to your tacho. It just measures the speedo, it measures the speed the bike's travelling at. That was £8. Spark plugs and leads, £60. And now we go into the little extras, as it were. The sandpaper was £5, the paint was 70 quid, the filler was £10, and that was for the tank itself. Grinding discs, and I used a heck of a lot of them, came to £14. Bolt extraction. When I bought the bike, the exhaust manifold went into the engine. At some point the bolts had been cracked and broken off, and that was a right pin in the bum for me. So I had to get someone to professionally extract the bolt and then put some threaded sleeves in, and that was £70. Again, for the job that they did to remove 2 bolts, it's not too bad, you can't really complain about that. And the exhaust welding, now there's a certain knack to creating exhausts. It's not something that I like to do. If there's a little hole in it, then you're going to cause no end of problems for yourself. So that was £60. Now altogether, roughly, my tally should say it here, but I think it's just over £2,500. That's for the entire bike. You could possibly buy yourself a nice Triumph for one of those, but where's the joy in that? Part of the passion and the enjoyment of building cafe races is to do this work yourself. You stand back at the end of the day and you look at it. So hopefully this is a good indication of how much to spend on a bike if you are thinking of starting your own cafe racer. It's not to put anyone off. As with anything, it's an expensive hobby. If you're going to be building cars, if you're going to be racing motocross, you know, you've got costs that'll equal that. So if it's what you enjoy doing and if it's what you want to try, go for it, is what I say. My ethos is all about buying bikes that need that last chance before they go off to the scrap heap, or bikes that have been abused or cut up by people before and left to rot. There's always life in a bike, unless it's been in a crash, and then you've got bent frames. In that case, send it to the scrap heap. But that's it from me. So just an update on my own bike. Next week I'll be putting up a video about the ignition points and the carburetors. So I've stripped out the carburetors and I've realised that they're an absolute mess. One out of the 4 jets had a hole through it. Just to explain quickly, we need holes in jets, otherwise no fuel's going to go anywhere. So 3 jets were blocked. They're all going to have to be cleaned. Thoroughly cleaned. There was oxidation inside the jets. You can see where the copper had turned green, so not a good sign. There'd been no petrol in those for years. So in the meanwhile, don't forget to subscribe down there wherever it comes up,